Record.
Record.
Okay. Hi, everybody. You're watching Simply SCAdian, no title required. This is Zoph, joined once again by my fabulous co-host, Lucas. Lucas, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Hi, guys. Welcome to Simply SCAdian, no title required. It's kind of weird. I haven't been here in a while. I apologize. I miss it when I cannot be here. So for those of you who have watched the show before, for those of you just joining us, remember, once again, as always, the mission statement is this: we'd like to showcase those folks around the SCA who are doing the day-to-day kind of things. We love our people who have achieved rank, but we have so many people in the association who have just a wealth of knowledge that they can give us, regardless of whether or not they've taken the steps to gain that title, to take that next step in their thing. So it doesn't matter where they're from. We want to hear from them. So we want to hear from you, which means you need to go on the Facebook page, Simply SCAdian, no title required. Hit that Facebook page up, find the form, fill out the form. If you're somebody who you think we should talk to, give us reach out to us. If there's somebody that you think we need to talk to, that's even better. Give us the name of that person. Tell us why you think we should talk to them here on the show. Does not matter the subject. All right. We want to talk to the fighters. We want to talk to the bards. We want to talk to the fencers, but we want to talk to the people that are doing the more uncommon things. I mean, whether or not it's venting or brewing or sewing, or as we had, I think the last time I was on was smithing. So it's just been wonderful to get to know all these people, and it's wonderful to get to know our guest tonight. So we'd like to welcome to the show Avelino Faber. She is a member of the Barony of Brendoken, participates in the SCA through arts and dance. She's an artisan, weaver, embroiderer, practices illumination, works on chainmail, and primary focus is weaving through particularly Baltic pickup and card weaving. And if you don't know what that is, neither do I, and we're going to get to the bottom of that. As a dancer, she enjoys 14th and 15th century Italian as well as English country. Avelino, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucas. Hi, Zoph. Thank you for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. So let's start off with our first question that we always ask. How did you find the SCA?
So it's going to be 12 years this February. Lord Algar Ironhand invited myself and my father to our very first event called the Mask of Courtly Love in Brendoken. And I remember going into that event and looking around like, wow, these people are pretty. These people are talented. I want to be these people. And I spent that first event just wandering around, watching the fighters, watching the artisans, hanging out with my friends that I had already in the society, in the lunch tavern. And after the event, my father and I are driving home. I'm like, this is my thing. I'm coming back. And it's just gone ever since. I've been doing all different things in different baronies and different marches. And a big shout out to Lord Algar Ironhand, though, because without him, I would not be in the society.
He's a pretty awesome guy. So we should say that Brendoken is comprised of 4 marches, and it's in the Akron, Ohio, Massillon, Ohio area. So Northeast Ohio, we'll just put it that way.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. So when did you, so when you were kind of at that first event and whatnot, is that where you kind of started to go towards, more of the clothing and the making and the textiles, or did you see the dancing and was like, that I got to do that? What was really pulled you first?
The first thing that actually pulled me was the chainmail. I spent a good portion of that event learning how to make different chainmail patterns. And I've gotten away from it a little bit as the years have progressed because it's an expensive hobby. It hurts the hands. But I've made a ton of things with chainmail, and that's what first drew me in. And then it was the textiles and the dancing and just everything else in the society.
So what is involved in making chainmail? Like what do you need to have to make chainmail?
Um, so it really kind of depends on if you want to cut your own jump rings or if you want to order them from somebody else. I've done it both ways. So if you're going to cut your own, you need wire cutters, and I use different types of pliers to bend my rings to close them. And then you really just need jump rings. It doesn't involve a whole lot of materials, but the materials are expensive, especially if you're trying to turn your own wire. Going and buying wire from Tractor Supply can get a little pricey sometimes. But I would also order like colorful jump rings.
So you'd get them in that shape and
I
then
would
put them
get
together.
I would get like a spool of wire, and then I would ask my father to take it to work and turn it for me, and then he would mail it to me at college.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
so I'd get a package in my mailbox of just wire, and I would go back to my room and just sit there and cut it for hours on end.
What's the most elaborate structure you've made?
The most, I would say, I made a skirt for myself. So I've never really gotten to making armor. I liked making more decorative things and like jewelry for people, but I made myself a skirt, and that was very heavy.
Yeah.
What gauge wire did you use for that?
14 gauge steel.
Wow.
What does that mean? What does gauge mean?
So it's and I may be getting this completely wrong because I never really got into knowing all the things about metal, but I believe it's like the thickness along with, and it's not the diameter. Is it the diameter? It may be the diameter. Lucas, do you know?
It's the thickness of the wire. It's not the
Yeah, I
diameter
was like, I
of the
think
circle. It's the thickness of the wire.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's the thickness of the wire. So the thicker the wire is, the bigger gauge, I believe.
Cool. So
Yeah.
when you got different colors, did you have to color it yourself or did you get it colored?
It came, so when I would use colored materials, it is anodized aluminum, and I would order it already colored from a company up in Canada.
That's cool. I had no idea you could buy that way. I've admired that stuff at Penzic, the merchants that sell it.
Yeah,
But no, I know nothing about making chainmail at all.
it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I've seen people who have made chandeliers with chainmail. I've seen top hats made of chainmail, and it just, yeah.
Oh, how would you do? That would be because you'd have to stiffen it.
Yeah, you use just curved wire, not like just a spool of wire or a piece of wire, and you give it structure.
Good to know. All right.
Yeah.
Things you learn on Simply
In case you ever want to make a top hat.
because I'm totally going to be down with a chainmail top hat. I would look good in it though.
You would.
Now you know what you're getting for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think we have enough time for that.
Next year.
Yeah.
So what after you decided chainmail was okay, what got you into the next art?
So my next art was really getting into inkle weaving. And it was like right before my second or third Penzic, I had a yellow blouse that needed a drawstring. And I'm like, I knew how to do finger loop braiding, but my arm span is not long enough to make a huge drawstring that this blouse needed. So I was looking around for something, and Aideen Gormschulik, who's another member of our barony, she said, "Here, use my loom and try and make something." Like, okay, sure, whatever. And found a few videos online and made this very simple, very, very simple drawstring. And I'm like, I want to do this. This is fun. So at the time I was in college, and dorm rooms are small, not really good for keeping looms when you're in a very enclosed space with other people who don't appreciate what you do. So a few years later, for my birthday, my dad got me my very first loom. And I think he's gotten me a loom every year since.
Huh.
I think I have 7 of them now.
So you brought up these different types of braiding techniques. I mean, again, I like it that sometimes I represent the I have no idea what this is kind of corner of the SCA sometimes. And so what are the significant differences of that? You talk about arm length. So like why would you need a loom, and can you take me through that process a little bit?
Yeah, so finger loop braiding is when I do it at least, you attach loops of thread to your fingers and you weave them in and out of each other just using your hands. So the length of your braid is determined by how wide you can spread your arms as you tighten it.
Okay.
So I don't have a huge arm length or wingspan, so I can't make super long things. Getting a loom, I have a loom now where I could make 8 yards. So I can make very long things, or I can just use my fingers and make very short things.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know a little bit about weaving because I used to have a loom, and then it's not my thing. So, did you started with the basic weaving, I assume, and then moved into card weaving?
Yeah, I started with the very basic, just basic. When you have a loom, when you start out, at least when I teach people when they start, is it's a very basic one color band, and you wrap your loom around. Oh, I don't have one up here. But you wrap it around, and then you have heddles, which are individual pieces of string that you put over every other wrap. So you have string on different levels, and you have a shuttle that you wrap in either the same color thread or a different color thread, and you pass it through each level, pulling the threads up or down. So that's very, very basic, without having a loom in front of me, description. Then after that, you can move into other forms of weaving, including card weaving, which card weaving doesn't use the heddles. You actually have individual cards that you run your string through, and you turn the cards in different directions to get your patterns. So
oh, good. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so each card, there are like different styles. Most of the ones I see are squares, and you have a hole in each corner. And then there's triangles, which also have a hole in each corner. There's hexagons, there's octagons, and the more holes you have, the more intricate your pattern is.
So then my question would be like, so you have all these techniques. Do you get deep dive into the scholarship of it? Like, do you know like where these techniques originated, and do you follow that as far as your persona is concerned, or is it just sort of an overarching thing that you like to do, and regardless of persona? Or
yeah, I don't actually have any of my own pieces that I've ever made for my persona. I make them and then I just give them away to people. But I would like to get more into researching something for my own persona. My persona is 14th century English Welsh. So I'd like to maybe look at some patterns that I could make and put on my own garb.
So in period, I've seen the cards, and they literally are like playing cards. You could cut up playing cards and make and use them. What did they use in period, though, instead of, because they didn't have that kind of card stock to do? What did they use in period on their looms?
Pieces of wood.
Just really thin pieces of wood? Huh.
I have some that are thicker. I have some that are about 1/4 of an inch thick, that are wooden. The only thing with the wooden cards is they will eventually fray your string. So your thread that is running through the holes will eventually snap sometimes.
So then,
Yeah,
can you
that's never
salvage
fun.
it when that happens, or is it like,
You
oh, that's toast?
you can you can get another piece of string and reconnect them, as long as you make very tiny knots.
So how intricate have you made, and okay, so let's first of all, what are these used for? What people make on Inca looms used for?
So you can use it on trim for your garb. I've seen it used as like a strap for a bag. People also can use it for making modern things like keychains, or I've seen dog collars that have been made out of them, or belts. I made one for my father that says Brendoken on it. That's a belt that he wears while he's fighting. I've made trim for different people, and yeah, you can use it for all sorts of different things. I'm making one right now that I'm going to actually cut up into bookmarks.
Nice. So I want to steer it really quick towards a question that just came to me. Your
Okay.
father is the Baron of Brendoken. What's it like having
Yeah.
a dad who's a Baron? What's that? What has that meant for you in your journey in the SCA?
I get noticed a lot more. Back before my dad was Baron, I also started my journey in the SCA with Brendoken, but then immediately moved to Red Spears for school. And then immediately after that, moved to Middle Marches for work. So I've only been home in Brendoken for 3 years. But now I'm like, so people in Brendoken didn't really know me a whole lot. I would come home for breaks and they'd be like, "Who are you again?"
Wow.
And some people knew me, like some of my best friends, like Artur McGregor, who is a fencer, and Sigmund Grimborg, and a couple other people knew who I was. But now I'm like, okay, people recognize me now. This is weird.
Does he, I don't know, I just am curious of what it's like to be the kid of a Baron.
Um, I feel like a lot of times, like I follow him around at events because I'm interested in seeing who he meets. And also it's fun to kind of just be there and see how he interacts with people. And it also lets me think about, okay, is this something I'd want to do at some point? Would I ever want to put my name in to become Baroness?
Well, that would have been my question. Does seeing that inspire you to go into that, or make you a little more like, all right, this is a lot of work, and maybe I don't want to do this, you know?
I'm a little more hesitant now. He does a lot of travel.
Yeah.
Mm.
He
Yeah.
does a lot of travel, and I see how he interacts with people, and I'm like, yeah, I could not do that.
Well, he's also like super extroverted and really just a great Baron, I think. That's my unbiased opinion.
As his champion.
Okay. Okay. So I have to make it clear that I am his bard, but I also think he's a good Baron.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I watch him with people. I'm like, yeah, I totally would have just told them exactly what I think and would not have been politic about it. I'm like, I don't think I could do that.
Why do you think I've not run for Baroness? Nobody wants Zoph to be their Baroness. No,
Oh,
no.
that'd be fun, Zoph.
Yeah.
Move to Jersey.
Move to Jersey and I'll run together. Yeah, that'll happen. So anyway, so back to Inca weaving. One of the things
Yes,
you mentioned was Baltic something.
Baltic pickup.
So what is that?
It's this.
Ooh.
Wow.
So this is a more advanced form of, so pickup is there, like I said, there is regular inkle weaving where it's literally just up and down, up and down. Pickup is when you push you push some threads up, and then some that are still in the bottom, you pick up and put them up and top where they're not supposed to be. And it makes a pattern. Baltic pickup uses thicker threads for your pattern. So my threads are 2 or 3 thick, so the pattern is actually raised on the finished piece. So it has texture, which I like how that feels, and I like how it looks.
So what will you do with what you just showed us? What's the end goal with that?
This one's going to be bookmarks for my mother.
Aww.
I've never made her anything, and she's like, "Can you make me something?"
Now, is your mom in the SCA at all?
No, she is not. She does not participate, but she supports me and my sister in what we do in the SCA.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've never vended or anything. You just give you just give it all as gifts, huh?
I give it away. I find people who want it and I say, here, you want this?
That's wonderful.
So when it comes to the scholarship and when it comes to, you're our first weaver, so we have a lot of questions right now. When it comes to the
Yay.
scholarship, how much deep dives have you done? Like with this Baltic drop pickup stuff, you know,
Yeah.
what books are out there, what information is out there to help you learn, or have you had a lot of one-on-one conversations with people to learn these things?
So some of it was self-taught with just, I have a couple of books that I've gotten through other SCAdians or through friends that have patterns. And I have 2 books right now that are based off of Swedish card weaving patterns. There's 2 entire books of these, which I didn't even realize there was enough to make 1 book. But some of the patterns and some of what I do with the scholarship, I've learned from another weaver who's a friend of mine. Her name is Barb.
Oh, Barbara Webster, she's incredible.
Yes, she is. She takes a lot of time out of her schedule to teach me and sit down with me and show me how to make these things.
How big
So,
is, I mean, you talk about a friend of yours. How big of a community is there in the SCA for this? I mean, is it a pretty wide field?
it's-
A lot of,
Yeah, it's fairly big. I know about up here, at least where I am, within like probably a 20-minute radius from my house, around 7 different weavers.
Hmm.
Which I'm like, that to me is quite impressive.
That is, yeah. So what about larger looms? Have you ever thought about getting like one of the big looms? Wait, are you showing? Look, yeah, like one of those. What
I
are you
have one.
what are you making on that?
Nothing. I'm still learning how to use it.
but so what is the purpose of a loom that large? Obviously, you're not making a belt. I mean, you're talking about making full fabrics then at that point, right?
Yeah, I could make full fabric. You can make fabric on it to then turn into bags. You can make shawls. I've seen people make blankets. So yeah, there's quite a bit. You can make cloaks. You can make fabric and make it, sew it all together into a cloak or into garb, other garb.
Now, is that the same as, again, complete utter novice, not even a novice? Would you use something like that for making a tapestry or something like that, or is that more of that's all done with needles?
You probably could.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but I totally am up for it.
Keep talking. I'm doing tech girl stuff.
Yeah, I wondered what.
Okay.
I saw all of a sudden you were very interested, and I was like, "Is there a problem?" All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. So we love the weaving. That's a dance. Talk to me about dance. Where did you kind of start that journey, and then kind of, how did that evolve?
So I started my dance journey. I was at Penzic, and I was walking around the merchants and the classroom area with my sister, and we were tired, and the dance tent was right there with lots of nice benches and cold water. I'm like, let's sit. And they were teaching a basic English country dance class. And my sister is sitting there. She has her hands in lots of string because she was doing finger loop weaving, which is what I talked about earlier. And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I went over and I started dancing, and I've now been dancing for 7 years within the society. I've helped teach classes at local events. I haven't taught at Penzic yet. That's a goal at some point, but I've made some of my best friends through dance throughout the society. I've met people from all different kingdoms and all over the world just through dance.
So dance is tricky though, because we don't have a lot of documentation on the steps that they did, or do we?
We do. We have some. We have a lot more for English country and Italian. There was a gentleman who wrote it all down for English very long time ago. His name was Playford, and we use the Playford manuals to recreate the dances. And then within the society, we actually have a book we call it the Terp book. There's an event called Terpsichore at the Tower. and they give out these books that has every dance that we know within the society documented.
So when you talk about English country dance, what does that mean?
So English country dances tend to be in big groups, like it's 4 or 6 or 8 people all dancing together. And it's like, if you ever watched any of the historical fiction movies that take place in like Edwardian England and, you know, Pride and Prejudice, they're walking through a nice field. Those are like English country dances. Italian dances tend to be very flirty. You're with your partner or you're flirting with everybody else in your group. English country doesn't tend to be flirting. It's just having fun.
Which do you prefer?
I like English country. I feel like it's a lot more relaxed and people are laughing. You can with Italian. There's a couple of dances that we do. There's one called Petite Rienne, which is a very slow, stately dance. And then at the very end of the dance, the musicians will speed it up like times 10. And so you just see everybody galloping around the room, trying to keep up with the musicians. And it doesn't work all the time. You tend to run into people.
So dance is very cyclical, I've noticed in my years in the SCA. 30 years in the SCA. This Penzic will be year 30. So anyway, so cyclical. And I've noticed that dance seems to be not as popular right now as it was, but it goes through like these 5 or 6 year cycles where everybody loves to dance and then not so much, and then everybody loves to dance again. So how do dancers find their way in the SCA when dancing like right now is not the thing that lots of people are doing? So where do you go to dance, I guess is what I'm asking.
Right now, the only dancing I'm able to do is at Penzic because that's where a lot of like-minded people go to. And I've realized it kind of depends on the barony and where you are. Like when I was in Red Spears, they had a dedicated night. Instead of having fighter practice, it was dance night. You didn't come to fight, you came to dance. And everybody came to dance, even the fighters. Middle Marches also has a very big, for those who are not familiar, Red Spears is Toledo and Middle Marches is Columbus, Ohio. But Middle Marches also has a very big dance community. Cleflands, which is Cleveland, has a pretty good dance community up there as well. Brendoken does not have as big of a dance community. So right now, if I do dance, it's usually at home and I'm dancing with what I call ghosts, which I'm dancing with 4 or 5 fake people. And we even had to do that at Penzic this year. Penzic had a very small number of dancers actually show up because of the plague.
Huh.
Now, if somebody wanted to get into dance or wanted to start dance in their own barony or in their own, particular area, what's your suggestion on a good place to start with that? Like a good easy dance and something you could pick up fairly quickly. It doesn't require a lot of musicians, maybe that kind of thing.
Yeah, so for anyone who wants to start, I would definitely start with English country dance or any of the French brawls, because those tend to be very easy. There's some like roughy tufty, which is an English dance, is literally you walk forward and back, you turn to your partner, you walk forward and back. And English country dances have the same format. So there's siding, which is where you turn to your partner and you walk towards each other and your shoulders meet up. So you're literally touching sides. And then there's arming, and that's when you stick your arm out and you cup their elbow. You don't grab, you never want to grab. That's rude. But you cup their elbow and you turn them in a circle. And every English country dance that is very basic follows that same structure. You do siding, then you do arming. So it's very easy to learn one and learn the others fairly quickly.
But I have a friend who does English country dancing, like that's not in the SCA. Like there's groups around the country or the world that have English country dancing, and people do it like in modern clothes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that is a thing. I'm trying to remember.
I know there's very similar dancing, like contra dancing. can be
Contra,
very,
that's the word I'm
yeah.
thinking of. Yes, okay.
I've done contra. Contra is like a mix between swing, square, and English country.
Wow.
Um, it's fun. Contra dancing is really fun.
Do you know where that originated? It's just an
Don't
odd
know.
blend. It's, you know.
I know there's a lot of it. I've gone to contra dancing in like Atlantia, and I've also gone to it in the East, over in Pittsburgh. So that's the East, right?
No, that's Ethelmark.
No, that's I don't know where all the kingdoms are. I know where my kingdom is.
Sometimes that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So I do want to just say, Lucas, and to other people, there are CDs out there, or if you're more hip, you can go onto iTunes and there's a group called Musica Subterranea, and there's others that have come out with
Yes.
albums of the music that people dance to. So you can play that music and work on the dances. So you don't even have to have musicians, because sometimes you're not going to get musicians at smaller things. Like at Cleflin's practices, they don't usually have a musicians there. They just pull out a boombox. I don't know what they call it nowadays, but back
We
then,
call it a bard in a box.
bard in a box, and they play the music so people can dance to it.
Yeah, I use their music all the time for teaching classes because it's a lot easier than trying to get a full set of musicians all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I would love to have live musicians, I understand they are also busy.
So what is dancing at Penzic like? Tell me, because I've never been dancing at Penzic. Well, that's not true. Back when it used to be in the barn, which is now the Cooper store. Yes, I'm old. Thank you, Lucas.
I remember that.
You remember dancing in
I
the
don't.
barn?
I actually danced in the barn. So
Maybe you danced once upon a time, Lucas.
maybe we did do a play together. You don't remember?
No, we never did a play together.
Oh.
Anyway, inside joke. So tell me what it's like to dance, because now they have a whole tent with a floor, and people like go dressed to the nines to go do this. What's it like at Penzic when you dance?
Yeah, so at Penzic, during the day, there's dance classes and they can teach all sorts of things. I've seen dances where you're using a sword and shield and you're actually reenacting something while you dance. But then in the evenings, there are the different balls, and we have the newcomers ball where each dance is actually taught before we do it, which is fun. We tend to do that one in the Great Hall because we get so many people that show up for that. We've done masquerade balls where you try to show up as best you can with what your Penzic wardrobe will allow you to, in theme. And before the plague, we had food and we'd have drinks everywhere. And people, they'll have these chalkboards that have the dance list. And you see, all right, I know that dance. Great, I'll dance that. I don't like that dance. I'm going to sit. And there are benches all around, and everyone just gets up and you dance around the room, avoiding hitting each other, hitting the musicians, hitting the poles, ignoring the slope in the floor because the floor is sloped. So you don't want to fall off the floor.
Right.
But it's really fun. Dancing tends to start at like 8, and the ball usually goes until 10, but we're usually there until 2 a.m.
And just dancing all night long.
Just dancing and having fun. And usually on the second week of Penzic on Wednesday, there is a place down in the bog called Casa Bardici.
Mm-hmm.
And Casa Bardici will actually host a ball in the middle of the day. Mm-hmm. And they invite everyone to come down. You get to dance in this Italian villa, and it's gorgeous and it's so much fun. Right there by the lake, you get great pictures, and it's just a lot of fun to be in a different setting.
Yeah, I love the Casa. They're our neighbors, sort of, a block or so over, and I camp with Raven Spittle, so we're the big pirate ship. But
I like that ship.
But I've actually gotten I've gotten to perform there at the Casa.
That's awesome.
Yeah, before, so that's a lot of fun. So I'd have to say that one of the, again, talking about Penzig, since it's a common event for all of us. People always talk about those moments where you're walking through the market and suddenly there's nothing modern, and there's what we're all striving for. It looks like it is, or on the battlefield for just that moment, everything felt like we were really there. I imagine that the dances really do lend themselves to just the full immersion in the reenactment, that that you could just look around and it just kind of feels like, wow, we're really doing this thing for real. Like, yeah.
It really does. It's like you see all these people just dressed in, like Zoe said, like their best clothes, and you're like, this just feels so real. You forget about being sweaty, you forget about being tired, you forget about, wow, I haven't eaten today, I should probably do that. And you're just like, I'm here. This is fantastic, and it feels like you really are back in medieval ages.
How can we get more people interested? Okay, so let's just say, how can we help people appreciate dance in the SCA? What can we do?
I think something that could be done is showing it. It's not like, I'm trying to get people into it, saying, you can work on your footwork through dancing and it will help you with fighting. Because I know there is a much larger fighter presence than there is a dancing presence within the society. That's just how it is. But, it can help with your footwork. It can help with your balance. It can help you get an appreciation for music. Just letting people know it's not just about getting up there and learning all these weird steps with your feet and trying to remember backwards, forwards, left, right, turn. It can really help improve a lot of different areas of your life. And I think getting it out there, like having dance practices, instead of trying to fit it in around the fighter practices, trying to fit fighter practice around dance, if that makes sense. Instead of trying to squeeze it. At least every once in a while.
So I know that there's an event, a local event that we have in Brendoken called Mask of Courtly Love.
Yes.
And it's always fascinating me because the first time I went, I thought it was going to be an actual mask, which is a dancing, day-long dancing performance-based thing. And it had nothing to do, there was some dancing, but it wasn't that. So I would love to do an all-day actual mask in the SC.
Yeah, there will be dancing at Mask this year. I am teaching.
Okay, then I will be dancing at Mask this year. We'll take pictures to prove to our audience that
And I'd have to say, honestly, I mean, like the something like the newcomers ball, that really interests me. You know what I mean? As far as like, I often kind of gripe with my SCA journey that I never know where to go in on something that I want to do. Like I never know, I look at like my own barony at times and I'm like, okay, they're fighter practices, but where's just like a general like meeting or a this or a that. And so something like that really sounds attractive to me because it sounds like, well, there'll be a lot of people like me who don't really know what they're doing and, come in to learn something new. And it doesn't have the same, like, I'm taking a class.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Kind of feel to it.
Yeah. And I know at least with like the newcomers ball, all of us that have known the dances, we try to pair off to people who are new. So we can be like, all right, here's where we go. We won't let you be like a lost lamb out in the middle of the field. We will help.
And but the thing about the SCA that's so awesome to me is that we can easily admit that we don't know what we're doing, and somebody who does will jump in and say, it's okay, I've got you, I'll help you figure it out. So one of our listeners commented that they're going to go to the newcomers ball at Penzig. Just from hearing you talk about it, it sounds like a great way for them to learn about dancing in the SCA. So we've got one person hooked.
Yay. I always drag my friends from the barony. I'm like, you're coming to a dance.
Have you dragged Algar to a dance yet?
No, Algar's always off in the bog with his drums.
Oh, bum. Algar's
one
of the coolest people in the SCA. Seriously. Go ahead.
He really is. I've dragged my dad to the newcomers ball. I've dragged my sisters. I've dragged pretty much most of the people from my camp at Penzig have gone at some point. except
You
for
made a lot,
Algar.
you made a lot of converts that way. I mean, like, do people really enjoy it once they do it? I mean, you know.
Some of them. Most of the time when I drag them, they're fighters who have already spent all day fighting and they're tired and they don't want to be there. They want to go to bed.
Mm.
Which I understand sometimes.
Well, you should get them out on a Tuesday night because there's usually not fighting on Wednesday.
Yeah, there you go.
Is there, I mean, again, just trying to learn about it. It seems like a lot of what we do in the SCA has a competition aspect.
Yes.
You know, whether it's scholarship or whatnot. Does dance have any kind of
Nope.
thing like that? Okay.
Nope.
I just wondered that, like, you know, if different baronies, you know, or whatnot competed or whatnot. I mean, there's dance competitions. So I wondered if that was
Nope.
something that, you know,
Not
listen.
that I know of.
I'm picturing Star-Lord at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy doing the dance off.
Yes.
No, we don't have that. We do have an event that happens like every 2 years that's called Known World Music and Dance Symposium. And it's literally just 3 days of dancing and music.
Wow.
Which is great. And I've gone to it once. I went to it in Baltimore around 6 years ago.
Does it
So
travel or is it always in the Baltimore area?
Nope, it travels. There was one year it was in a castle in Germany.
Whoa.
The last time it happened, I believe it was in Texas, and it was supposed to happen in Cleflands, and then the plague hit. So that hasn't happened.
Huh.
Do we know?
Yeah, that sounds
But it's such a cool event.
Yeah, is there going to be another one? Do we know? Has anybody put a bid in?
I don't know if anyone's put a bid in for it. It's like you have to have a big site. When we had it in Baltimore, it was actually in a convention center.
Wow.
So like with the hotel attached to the convention center, so you stayed at the hotel or a local hotel and you traveled to it and you were there for 3 days.
Yeah,
Wow.
there's a bunch of known world events, like Known World Cooks and Bards, which I'll drag you to when that happens again. Known World Heraldic Symposium. There's one for like metal workers. There's all these known world things. And I remember that the Cleflands was going to host the Known World Music and Dance Symposium. So hopefully we'll have another one soon. Maybe in, local-ish.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was so excited for it to be Cleflands because I'm like, I could commute to it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It's so much fun. And I definitely recommend everybody should at least try dance. Even if you decide you don't like it, you never want to come back to it, try it. It's fun. You meet a lot of cool people.
So between the weaving and the dancing, could you choose or no?
Weaving.
That fast answer. Wow.
Wow.
Weaving because I can do it by myself. Sometimes it's like you're just tired of people. Sometimes I'm like, I just need to go be by myself. And that's when I pull out the loom. I do it when I come home. It's very therapeutic.
So what's next for you in the SCA? Are you going to enter A&S? Have you thought about entering A&S with your weaving?
I've thought about it. My eventual goal is I would like to become a laurel.
Good goal.
So yeah, that's my goal. Not sure if I ever want to become a baroness at this point, but laurel and then pelican if I can as well.
That is great. So many people are shy about saying that, and I think more people should just say this is my goal. And it's not a goal because you want to be a peer. It's because you want to be a master of your art.
Yep, exactly.
So if somebody wants to get into weaving, how would they do that? What would be the first step in getting into weaving?
I would say if you can, find your local weavers guild. I know we have one here, and I'm not sure how many other baronies or how many kingdoms have them, but if you can't find your local weavers guild, if you have a chance to go to a larger scale event, most of the time you will find somebody there selling something, and I'd say just go and talk to them. Ask them about where they got their loom, what they use, what kind of materials, they need. Most times people will have a loaner loom that they will let you use if you just want to start getting into it. If you're not quite sure if it's what you want to do yet, my first loom that my father got me is now my loaner loom that I will loan out if somebody wants to try.
Is there a weavers group on Facebook?
I believe there is. I think there is. I believe I'm part of it. I'm part of so many things on Facebook, right. I don't even know anymore. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, or reach out to your local, if not your March, definitely reach out to your Baronies Facebook page or go to a meeting and say, hey, I'd like to get into this. Does anybody know anything about this? Chances are somebody knows something, or they know somebody who does.
Right. There's so many weavers in the SCA. I think you have to, what is it the saying about twirling a dead cat, or whatever that saying is?
You can't swing a dead cat in the SCA without hitting a weaver. I don't know if that's the whole phrase, but
that's a little morbid, Soph.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us down that path. Sorry.
Wow.
Would you recommend, like, are there like hobby store looms to start? I mean, like, if somebody.
I haven't found any at like Joann Fabrics or Michael's or Hobby Lobby. There are some on Amazon.
Okay.
If you just go and type in like ankle loom, which is spelled with an I, not an A. I very confused my mother because she thought I was saying ankle loom. It's not an ankle, it's an ankle. And then if you just want to start, I use crochet thread a lot of the time that you can get at Joann's for like $3. You can get fancier stuff, obviously. I have a little bit of a string problem. I have a lot of it and I don't need this much. So if you really want to get into it, let me know and I'll give you some. I literally just got another box of string this week. So
that's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have, really.
It's a good problem to have. Yes. It's just, I have a lot of it and I will probably never use all of it.
That's me and yarn. So much yarn.
I've just been giving it to people.
All
right. So it's time. We're almost out of time.
All right.
Oh, dang.
So, so what we like to end with, our common question is, what can we as a society, what can the SCA do better? Where can we improve?
So I was thinking about this a little bit earlier because I've been watching some of your older episodes. And one thing that I was thinking of was, I've noticed in the society, at least in my local areas, there aren't as many younger generation individuals getting involved anymore. Whether it's because they're going off to college or starting families or whatever is going on, there aren't as many people my age and younger joining, except as kids with their parents. And then they grow up and they go off and do their own thing. I think one thing that we could look at doing is getting more involved on college campuses to keep that interest alive. Because college kids, I mean, if they have a choice between staying on campus and hanging out with their friends or driving an hour away to go to an SCA practice, they're probably going to stay on campus. Just from my experience.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed too is we don't have as many chapters of the SCA involved with college campuses. For example, here in Ohio, in Middlemarches, there is a chapter associated with the Ohio State University, which is very nice for the students that go there. But I'm not sure if it's similar in other states with other large universities, but I haven't heard of anything like that at most other schools, at least the big ones. Like, we can't expect there to be a chapter at every tiny college throughout the United States or the world. That would be a lot, and that's a lot of resources and a little unnecessary. But that, I think, would bring in a lot more younger people. And I think something else that might help is, I know within the society, most individuals who have played for a long time are very willing to help, very willing to reach out to the new person and say, what do you want to learn? But there's just a handful of other people who have played for a long time who think that because they've played for a long time, they are better than everybody else, including the new people. They say, I don't want to waste my time on you. You're not helping me. You're not helping me achieve what I want in the society. And I'm like, that to me is not a good way of looking at things. We should want more people to join, because we want our society to be around when we're no longer here or we can't play anymore. So there's not a ton of them. Like I said, most people are very welcoming, but there's just enough of those others that I think drives away new people. They go, why do I want to come back? This person just treated me very badly. I don't want to come back and see them. So, but definitely getting more college and younger people involved, I think would definitely help.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's interesting because the university I work at, the Cleveland group used to meet at the university that I work at, Case
Oh, I didn't know that.
University. And it's amazing how many SCAdians are employees of Case, but we no longer are part of the Case campus. And
Right.
like, these students would be perfect to join the SCA. And I keep thinking, how can we get more SCAdians from my university, I don't know it, the one I work at. How can we get more of them involved in the SCA if they don't even know we exist?
And it's funny that you brought that up, because I hadn't even thought about it in a very long time, but I'm a high school teacher in my mundane life, and I'm in the town that has Rutgers University in New Jersey in it. And I had a student come in with 2 full totes once and said, my parents are getting rid of this stuff, and I know you do it in here. And it was tabards and boots, it was a helmet, it was a breastplate and whatnot. And I said, well, what do they want for it? It's nothing, they just want it out of the house. They used to do this when they were in college at Rutgers. They used to do the SCA there. And so apparently there was a chapter or something on Rutgers campus at one time. And I haven't heard about any of that. It would stand to reason they are the Scarlet Knights, but I don't know if that had anything to do with it. And then there's Drew University, which is not too far from here, which has a group called That Medieval Thing, because that's what became the name, because that's what everybody else on campus called it whenever they saw them, that medieval thing that they do. And I've actually been there as a hired performer for some of their dinners a couple times and whatnot. So it's kind of what you're saying. And a lot of people that I know in the SCA came through that group. So it proves your point that it was keeping them, interested through those college years.
This is right. Even if it was just, I know a lot of schools do like an opening weekend, or like a student fair, like right after school starts. Even if local groups just put on like a demo or something at that, just to say, hey, we're here. If you have some pent up frustration about your finals, come beat your friend.
Yeah. Or dance or weave.
Or dance or weave, or shoot arrows, or throw axes, or make some wine, do something.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to teach college kids to make wine.
Yes, we do.
It's better than some of the things they might make.
This is true.
As long as they're over 21, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Take us out.
Do we have in 2 weeks or no?
No, we're not doing it in 2 weeks, because that's the week between Christmas and New Year.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
But we're going to come back in January. We're not sure exactly when. Lucas and I haven't decided yet when we're coming back in January. We will be, and we have had a lot of recommendations come through on our form, which, don't forget, is on our Facebook page. So let us know of people that should be on the show. The only rule we have is they cannot be a peer or a landed baron or baroness in the SCA. This show is about no titles required. We want people who do not have, they can have GOAs, that's fine. If the honorable lord or lady want to come on the show, just no peers and no landed baron and baronesses, or former landed baron and baronesses.
Well, Avelino, thank you so much. I mean, this has just been great. Just kind of really just hearing about some things that we've never had on the show, and that's kind of what we wanted to showcase. And you've been a lovely guest, so thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
On behalf of my lovely co-host Zoph and myself, I'm happy to be back. Hopefully I'm back for a while now. And thank you for watching Simply SCAdian, no title required.